Look at indigenous peoples as a solutions, not as a victim. We are your best alliance because we do have a traditional knowledge that bears from centuries, pass it from one generation to another one, that help us to survive flood, drought, hurricanes. And those knowledge are so important because they are the best technology of the nature.
The biggest problem that my community faces today is the loss of biodiversity and culture, and also disposition of land rights.
Bueno, además de los problemas sociales, tenemos los problemas ambientales. Por ejemplo, la Amazonía sufre la sequía más larga de la historia y ha afectado gran parte de la biodiversidad silvestre, acuática, y eso afecta gravemente la autonomía alimentaria de los pueblos indígenas y pues obviamente la pérdida de la biodiversidad.
This year, we faced a bigger flood that displaced 2 million of people. My community are part of it. And we lost a lot of our cattle. People died because of the climate change impact that we didn't create it.
Our people have experienced language loss, cultural decline, and the exploitation of our resources. And if we don't have digital real estate in the digital age, we will be landless there too. So that is a serious problem for Te Aupōuri, Ngāi Takoto, and all Māori people, and it's a problem we share with other Indigenous people.
What gives me hope is meeting different Indigenous peoples and learning about their community and understanding that a lot of the positives and negatives are the same within my own community. So there's a connectedness there that I didn't think was as apparent. And that hope, comes from understanding that all Indigenous peoples are inherently connected through a connection to the land and a connection to something much more spiritual and deeper than a lot of different other communities might not understand.
We must engage in collective action if we are going to work for a nature positive future, if we are going to work for a societally positive future, and if we're, to be honest, going to move forward. Our people are people that not just look at the brightness of the stars in the sky, but we also look in the dark spaces, and we have enormous contributions to bring to the business sector.
Saving a language isn't just about talking. Saving a language is about identity. Saving a language is about intergenerational transmission of culture and traditional knowledge. It also is the ideal vehicle for the ongoing transmission of our whole philosophical worldview. My message to world leaders is save a language and help save this planet.
Here we've seen a growing need for a new harmony between man and nature, and I believe this harmony can only be found within the understanding and the inclusion of Indigenous peoples.
In terms of our forecast, it's divergence and uncertainty. Divergence because while on the one hand we see the US economy doing much better than expected and quite strong, we're seeing weaknesses in Europe and we see many challenges in China. On the uncertainty front, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty about policies around the world, be it trade policies, there's immigration, there is investment and private investment and where it will go and so on. So there's a lot of uncertainty that we are seeing around the world. There are three ways that governments should look at their fiscal policy. One, make sure it's growth friendly. Two, make sure that you have guardrails, which is you have good, sound fiscal frameworks that ensures that you keep your fiscal spending at a particular level. And the third is grassroots, which is to make sure that the public is coming along with the kinds of reforms you're trying to make. Leaders should prioritize being agile. This is going to be a year with a lot of important policy shifts around the world. So focusing on how you can build resilience in your economy to these developments is going to be absolutely critical. Emerging markets are a major part of the world economy. They are close to 45% of global GDP. And what we find that increasingly over the last decade, what happens in emerging markets and developing economies has important spillovers to the rest of the world. If you look at the large major emerging markets, their spillovers are now comparable to the kinds of spillovers we see from domestic developments in advanced economies. I think we should keep in mind that this is the time of new technologies that we are all embracing in terms of, for example, generative AI, and that has the potential to raise productivity in the world. If it does really well, we think it could increase it by 0.8 percentage points of world GDP, which would be great. Countries should firstly invest in public digital infrastructure so that everybody has access to the digital economy and they can participate in the beneficial aspects of AI. It's also going to be important to make sure the social safety nets can protect workers, for instance, who will need to transition to newer kinds of jobs, because there will be some job losses that come from automation. Just in terms of reskilling your population, in terms of the education that they will need to benefit from this technology. All of these are important investments to make.
It's the children that I meet and it's the children that I've met over the last 20, 25 years that motivate me. I always say that When I walk into these villages and these children are in completely different situations to what my children are, they have the same smiles. And that's what inspires me, and that's what gives me hope. When I was 17 years old, that's when my real journey with UNICEF started. I was in Thailand on tour with Manchester United, and I was asked to go to a women's centre. And at 17 years old, I knew right at that moment that I wanted to be involved in this organisation in the future. And then I was lucky enough to be made Goodwill Ambassador. We created the Seven Fund 10 years ago, and we've obviously been able to affect and help so many children around the world, which I'm very proud of. But we kind of shifted our focus over the last few years on teenage girls and empowering teenage girls, because over that time I had noticed how girls get left behind, how girls get treated differently, how girls get pulled out of their schools and their education and forced into child marriage, and they miss out on that education. I have 4 children, 3 of them are boys, 1 of them is a girl, and I want my daughter to have exactly the same opportunities as my sons do. And that's not an unreasonable ask, that is a must. Equality must be the top of the list for leaders, for business builders, for people in business that can make a change. That must be at the top of their list. I've always said that when you uplift a young girl, you uplift their family, you uplift their communities, and it uplifts the world. So those are the opportunities girls need to be given, and it's simple as that. Being given the opportunity, being given equal rights to education, equal rights to healthcare. These things are so important.